All right, I'm going to start the stream. And we're up. It's Draft Wednesday. It's an exciting, despite the Hornets losing, it is an exciting show because it's Draft Wednesday. I'm joined by Nick and David, and Nick and I will draft it up. Hopefully you'll join us. Follow me on Draft at LOHDoug on the Draft app, and you can play along with us at 8:10. So join up. Draft.com, sign up, use our promo code LOHornets. Double M15 is already in the chat. What up, Nest? What's going on? Tough loss last night.
I wouldn't know.
Just sip your coffee there.
We'll get to that. I got a win for you. Let me tell you a story. Can I tell you a quick story from my weekend?
That's what the pre-show's for.
So, wedding in the mountains this weekend. Black Mountain, gorgeous. Not quite cold enough, but the leaves were turning. And I forgot my blazer, my trusty Navy blazer. I had a wedding to go to Saturday. So after a huge breakfast of biscuits and cinnamon buns, we're walking down the street and come upon the Kiwanis Club thrift shop.
Oh.
They are known for their blue blazers.
No blue blazers, but plenty of sport coats on the rack. Found one, size 40, regular. A little bit small for me, a little bit snug after that biscuit. But I picked that thing up. Guess how much it was? Just guess.
$20. $700.
It's a
Three goats.
thrift shop. It's a thrift shop.
$5.
$3.21.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
For a whole sport coat.
An entire sport coat. Although
Did you find anything inside?
It.
Did you find anything? Did somebody leave something behind? That's always fun.
I looked for like death certificates or something, but no. They had an extra button.
This is a deal to die for.
Should have done that for my wedding. Just go to the thrift shop and everyone orders their own suit.
You should have watched the game instead of going to a concert. That's what you should have done, Nick. What concert did you go to?
It was they're called the Warren Treaty. My wife saw them like years ago when they were doing open mic night in Baltimore, and she raved about them. And I happened to be in Durham the last night. So
you going?
Well, he went.
No,
he went last night. That's why I didn't.
They're killer though. Like they're kind of I guess it's like folksy kind of, but like they kill it. Like they have so much energy, and like it's I'd recommend it. Just give them a listen. I think they have music you can listen to. So
we need some energy.
That's the great Nick Denning music review. All right, let's start this show.
You are Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
This is Locked On Hornets. Welcome in, your daily podcast on the Charlotte Hornets and the NBA. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Search your podcast app for Locked On to get podcast on the NBA, the NFL, and fantasy sports. You can watch us live on YouTube, youtube.com/Locked On Hornets. Join the live chat. We got Double M15 saying, what up, Nest? Can we draft some defense? David in the chat as well saying, what up, Nest? Suffering from a hangover from that fourth quarter against the New York Knicks. And Jack in from Scotland saying, Nest. I mean, you know what? The live chat helps. So these shows after a loss used to really be kind of a downer. But having these guys in the live chat, really appreciate you coming in. So join us live, youtube.com/Locked On Hornets. We are coming to you from the Gittimer.com studios in BEA, beautiful uptown Charlotte. And this episode is brought to you by our friends at Draft. It is like daily fantasy, but different. You get to draft players. You get to keep those players. You can play for cold, hard cash. Sign up now at draft.com and use our promo code LO Hornets to get a special offer, a free game. Check it out and download the Draft app and then follow me at LOH Doug, and you can play along with us. We're going to do a live draft coming up a little later in the show. All right, welcome into the panel. We've got from the capital city, Nick Denning. Nick was just giving us his fantastic music review. Well, they play music. They have music. You can listen to their music.
Oh,
like Rolling Stone magazine.
My college teacher that where I literally learned to write reviews, she'd be so proud of me right now after that. So, yeah.
And we've got from the mean streets of Cotswold, one David S. Walker.
They don't call him the Lester Bangs of Raleigh for nothing, guys. He's out there. Music, true music.
All right, let's get into this. The Hornets lose to the Knicks in New York, 118-113. Hornets came out of the game on fire offensively, 41 points in the first, a season high for any quarter. Hornets absolutely could not miss from the three-point line, and they got help from their bench as well. Malik Monk had 18 points in the first half, but as electric as they were offensively, they could never quite pull away from the Knicks. They go into the fourth quarter with an 11-point lead. Knicks get big contributions from bench players Kyle O'Quinn and Doug McDermott, and of course, clutch buckets from the unicorn Kristaps Porzingis in the fourth quarter. Knicks outscore Charlotte 35-19 in the final frame and take home the W, the third straight loss for the Charlotte Hornets, all on this road trip. David, why did this game slip away from the Charlotte Hornets?
Defense. I mean, they got real sloppy on defense, could not get any stops. I mean, it was really that fourth quarter there where the bench for the Knicks, I mean, it was guys like O'Quinn, McDermott, friggin' Lance Thomas stepping out and hitting threes. So those guys came in and really kept the Knicks in it, brought them back in for Porzingis to come in and win the game for them. And when the Hornets had to, their offense ground down to a halt again, launched a lot of threes late. Some of them were fine. I mean, some of them were wide open shots, and they just weren't going in the way they were to start the game. But, they got out-toughed big time by O'Quinn in that game, and then the Knicks bench just simply outplayed them. I think they got 45 points from their bench players, and Charlotte just got really a contribution from Malik Monk, who had a great first half, but again went cold late in the game. So that was a tough one to lose because you're staring 0-4 on this road trip in the face, and you had that one. You really did.
Nick, I know you had to look at the box score and some highlights on this one, but I mean, what kind of opportunity slipped away from the Hornets by losing this one in New York?
Just the opportunity to gain some confidence back. I mean, anytime you go into the fourth quarter with an 11-point lead, you think to yourself, okay, like they just got to play half a quarter of good basketball, maybe stretch this lead to 15 or 16, and it's probably theirs at this point. Plus, we talked, this is kind of a throwback to last season. This is a team that blew some fourth quarter leads. I'm sure they wanted to distance themselves from that kind of reputation. So doing that again, I got texts last night from friends who watched, and they said it was just the same thing, wash, rinse, repeat, and that you can't help but agree with them.
Yeah, and they started to shake off that reputation at home, but then they get out on the road, they get tested on the road. They needed to test that defense. Defense wins on the road. And it was apparent last night in New York because, first of all, their defense let them down in the fourth quarter, but that crowd was able to stay in it. A raucous crowd in Madison Square Garden, hyped up by the fact that they've got Kristaps Porzingis, who is bringing the grit back to this New York Knicks basketball team, and they were behind the Knicks that entire fourth quarter, energized them, and that's why you need defense. You need to stop the home crowd from being an advantage. Here's my big turning point in this one. The Knicks pulled it to so they go into the fourth quarter with an 11-point lead, and then the Knicks pulled it to 104-100. Hornets respond with a quick 5 points. 109-100 is the score with 5:30 left. That should have been it. That should have been enough. this team has been good enough defensively before that Minnesota game to lock in and keep that lead. And instead, they allow three-pointers from guys like Doug McDermott. There was a pretty egregious breakdown by Jeremy Lamb on an inbounds play, not getting back to Doug McDermott, staying too far deep into the lane. Just mistakes like that cost them in the fourth quarter. It was just, to me, I mean, this game was tragic because now you face Boston next on Friday and then Cleveland coming up November 15th. They'll have 4 days in between those two games. But, I mean, this was an opportunity to get things back on track, and they lost it simply.
And I think there were some good moments, Doug. I mean, they did play good. They did play well enough on defense at times. I mean, they got some deflections. They got some turnovers that led to easy buckets, which is something we didn't see the game before in Minnesota. You know, that's a strength of this team. That's how they get their easy offenses, through turnovers. So they had stretches. But, I mean, down the end of the game, you mentioned it, they just could not come up with significant stops. O'Quinn was just playing bully ball with
By
Zeller.
the way, I just want to point out that during the pregame, the preview in the last episode, everyone was making fun of me for pointing out the Kyle O'Quinn versus Cody Zeller matchup. And that ended up being one of the key matchups in this game. So
It was O'Quinn versus everyone. I mean, they had no one on that second unit that could put a body on him or keep him off the boards. And that proved to be a turning point in the game. Doug, was that turning point you mentioned? It was interesting because they tried to get Porzingis in. I think the Hornets were up 5, and there was like a weird delay. There was like I think O'Quinn launched a ball over the shot clock or something, and it caused like a dead ball situation, but Porzingis couldn't come in.
Yeah, he tried to offensive rebound it and popped it up over the
Yeah, it allowed the Hornets to score 5 more points. And so when he came in, the Hornets were up 9 when Porzingis came back in that game. And from that point on, as it does so often, like, it comes down to the guy who is the best player on the floor, and he is ridiculous right now. They had Howard out there guarding him on the pick and rolls a lot, and he drilled a couple of big threes and then finally took Monk to the basket on a play that was – the Hornets were a bit discombobulated. You know, I saw some folks calling out Monk for not having proper defensive position on that. That's a tough cover for Monk to stay in front of Porzingis and stop him from getting to the lane.
Yeah, we can take a look at that play here before Nick and I draft it up. If I can get it pulled up here. I
mean, here's the thing, Nick. I don't know if you saw this. They strung that whole possession out. I mean, Porzingis really had no other choice except to drive to the basket. It looked like Ewing driving to the lane in that playoff game where he finger rolled and it just popped out. But, you know.
Yeah, so there it is. 18 seconds left, and Hardaway. You had Marvin on Porzingis. That's important on this one because the Knicks decided to go small, and the Hornets had to respond with something. They went with Lance Thomas in the fourth at the 4 instead of Enes Kanter, and that had the Hornets adjusting. They had Dwight Howard on Porzingis for a while, and then on that final defensive possession of the game, they decided to go with Marvin Williams on Porzingis and go super small. And Marvin shaded over to stop the drive by Tim Hardaway Jr. And instead of switching, or I guess Monk was late on that switch and then had to over-pursue, and you had Kemba trying to fly to Porzingis to prevent the 3, and then Porzingis just too good. I mean, he's just too good. Yeah. If you're Monk, even if you had stayed in front of him, you were going to struggle and got behind on the play, and Porzingis drills that backbreaker on the Hornets. Just a really tough matchup for the Hornets late in that fourth quarter because they went small and decided to switch everything on defense, which really hurt the Hornets' ability to get good shots. Yet still, I thought their offense did the same thing that they did in that first matchup against Milwaukee. You had Jeremy Lamb waving everyone off, taking an ISO three-pointer late in the game. That missed long and let the Knicks do what the Knicks do, which is get into transition, make you scramble your defense, and they got an open look for one of their three-point shooters. And those are the kind of things you can't do late in the game. You have to keep the ball moving despite what the defense throws at you. So just disappointing offensive execution once again from the Charlotte Hornets. Hey, fantasy basketball fans, got to talk about Draft.com. Listen up. If you love fantasy basketball, then you need to try our new favorite app. It's called Draft. It's daily fantasy basketball, but not like the other guys. On Draft, you play real live snake drafts with other people, just like in your season-long league. Here's how it works. It's a draft that lasts for just one night, and there's no management. Just set it and forget it. Once you're done drafting, that's it. No trades, no waiver wire draft. Even takes care of last-minute injuries for you. You can swap out players. Very, very cool. Drafts start every couple of minutes, so you can join one right now. And the best part, you can play for cold, hard cash. Drafts start from just $1, so there's a draft for everyone. And we're going to start a live draft here in about 15 seconds with myself and Nick. Nick's, what are you, 2-0 now?
Yeah.
Don't be so humble, Nick. That's quite an achievement.
Oh, I know.
Well, I keep picking players that are playing against the Hornets, and they keep underperforming against the Hornets. So I have a little bit of a jinx going on right now.
You're such a hater, Doug.
And it looks like it's all right. It's my pick first.
No, it's my pick first. Or no, your pick first.
Oh yeah, that's right. Finally giving me an advantage here. I'm gonna go I'm just gonna go down the line here and get KD. This makes sense for me.
I'm gonna go Curry then. So one of us is gonna do well.
Against that Minnesota defense, I mean, they're probably going to have 70 or 80 points in that one. All right, so the way this works is you draft 2 guards, you draft 2 forwards, and you draft a center. So, and it's a snake draft, so Nick gets to draft twice, and he's going with Porzingis. It's probably a smart move, even on a back-to-back. I mean, that guy is he's just hot right now. All right, so you get to draft a center. So I'm going to go with Andre Drummond here because centers are valuable in this situation because you only have one of them and there aren't many to choose from. And, okay, see, I get to pick again. So who do I have now? All right, I've got KD and I've got Drummond. I need another forward. Do I go defense here, Draymond Green, or do I go Karl Anthony Towns? See, I'm a little worried about Karl Anthony getting shut down. You know what? I'm going to go Kyrie Irving. Boston versus the Lakers. I don't trust that Lakers D right now. I'm going Kyrie Irving. He has not let me down in draft yet. He has been absolutely electric.
I'm going to go Whiteside against Phoenix.
Anybody against Phoenix, I'm telling you. It's really the draft strategy you have to have right now.
And I'm actually going to take Booker against Miami. Sorry.
Booker's my guy, dude. Booker has been killing it for me here on draft. Okay, now I think I'm cool with taking Towns at this point, and Double M15 suggests I go ahead and take Towns against Golden State. But it just worries me because he's got to go up against, who do I got left in shooting guards? Jimmy Butler, Goran Dragic. Jimmy Butler hasn't been scoring much. That's the problem. You know what? I'm gonna just make the safe pick and go Karl Anthony Towns here. And then you have 2 more picks left? No, I have one. No, I have one more. Yeah, I'm gonna stay away from Jimmy Butler, and I'm gonna go with Dragic against Phoenix. Anybody against Phoenix? The reason I'm staying away from Butler right now is because he's really interesting. He's like their 5th option on offense. It's strange. I mean, he's gone to reunite with his coach Tibbs in Minnesota and has decided to completely sort of abdicate his role offensively in order to just play defense, rebound, and do whatever Minnesota needs, and boy, do they need defense. So Jimmy Butler, one of the consistent defensive threats for Minnesota. So anyway, draft.com, sign up, play, use our promo code LO Hornets. There's no salary caps. You play in a real live snake draft just like you play with your friends in a season-long league. Come and join us on draft today. You can follow me at LOH Doug, and then you'll have a chance to play with us in listener leagues coming up soon. And again, that promo code LO Hornets when you sign up on draft.com today. All right, let's get back to this New York Knicks recap. I just think it's strange. What's happened to the Hornets on defense on the road? They're allowing over 110 points per game. That's the thing about this game that you have to understand, that even if they had made a few offensive plays in that fourth quarter, if Malik Monk had hit either of those 3-pointers that he had wide open in the corner, had Kemba come off that great Dwight Howard screen and knock down his three-pointer that was open by Kemba standards. Had they made any of those plays and managed to win the game, I think if you're Steve Clifford or if you're anyone that watches this team closely, you're not excited about that victory because they're still not addressing the issues that they had against Minnesota defensively. And they did respond nicely in the third quarter, holding the Knicks to 25 points, but then in the third, allowing 35 points. I mean, at some point, they've got to buckle down defensively, and it's not going to be easy against Boston on Friday.
And allowed 32 in the first quarter. That was overshadowed because they were able to score 41, which was great. But I don't know about you, Doug, but I was thinking the whole time, is this a little bit of fool's gold? I mean, they've been pretty good on offense, and they were good on offense in this game. But, man, they weren't going to keep hitting with the regularity that they were early on in that game. I think they were like 6 of 8 to start the game from threes. And so, you just were nervous that could not continue. And it's frustrating to watch. And they would have been happy with the win. But I think you're right. Clifford has got to be seething with the points they're giving up, especially on the road. I don't know how you solve that, Nick.
To Doug McDermott. That's. I mean, Doug. Listen, all respect to Doug McDermott. He's been playing well. Dude,
at least Doug McDermott is a shooter. Lance Thomas was drilling him. I mean,
but that's the guy. I mean, that's the guy you got to leave open. I mean, if you're going to leave anyone open, then you deal with that.
They shot 60% for the game.
Deal with that three.
You're not going to win many games.
Yeah, but Doug McDermott's offense in the second half helped lift the Knicks out of their deficit. Treveon Graham, normally someone that can be counted on for mistake-free defense, could not deal with McDermott's quick off-ball movement. And then, as I said, Jeremy Lamb making one of the most egregious defensive errors of the game on that McDermott inbounds. And that was the one where Kristaps Porzingis, let's talk about this for a second, was dying to draw a foul on Dwight Howard. I mean, he was...
What was that? What was going on?
And then when he finally... So he doesn't on that inbounds play. He falls to the ground. Dwight barely touched him. And then... the next play, he did draw an offensive foul against Dwight Howard and gave him the old winky dink, like gotcha,
yeah.
Like maybe let's not play gotcha. How about you just play the game, kid? That's all I'm saying. You're a star. You're scoring 40 points. You're hitting clutch buckets. All good, but just play the game.
We're assuming that the two of them hadn't been saying anything at all to each other during the game, which is probably not the case. I'm sure that Dwight said something or he said something, and so
it was bizarre though, Nick. It was like literally 6 times in a row. I mean, Dwight was leaning on Porzingis, but Porzingis was flying across the lane, like falling down 6 times in a row. Remember when flopping was a point of emphasis? That's no longer the case. The refs, didn't stop it or didn't talk to him or anything. It didn't really stop the flow of play, but it was just a weird couple of series where Porzingis was begging for a foul. He finally got it. I mean, you knew it was coming. But I thought Marvin did okay on Porzingis. I thought for the most part they did all right on Porzingis, Doug. I mean, he got his 28. He didn't get his 30. And he hit big shots down the stretch. But for most of the game, I mean, it was the bench that brought him back. They tried to do what they could to him. He's just playing on another level right now, and it's hard for anyone to stop him.
And it wasn't all defense to blame in this one as well. Up 109-103 after that Lance Thomas 3. Lamb decides to go ISO. He waved everyone off, pulled up from deep. That missed, and that was a bad shot. Plus, you had Malik Monk missing 2 open jumpers in the corner. Kemba missed a few as well. The Hornets had opportunities to knock down shots and turn the momentum around. And Monk and Kemba combined for 3 of 12 from the field, 1 of 8 for 9 points in the fourth quarter. I mean, that's winning time. I mean, that's the time that you expect both of those players. I would like Nick's thoughts on giving the ball to Malik Monk on that final possession and asking him to go make a play as opposed to Kemba.
I mean, looking at, I saw the open looks that he got in the fourth. I have no problem with those. They just didn't fall. And, considering the confidence that he plays with, rookie or not, given that his skill set is to shoot the ball and make shots, from the 3-point line, again, no problem with that. It's certainly better than a Jeremy Lamb ISO shot, or some of the other decisions they made. I mean, we can talk about like defense defense lost them this game, and over the stretch of the entire game. But again, this could just have been this would have been a win if just one or two of those shots had gone down.
Yeah, but my thing is for Monk, those shots have to go down because they were downsized and they had to deal with the fact that Monk was on the floor defensively in the fourth quarter. The Hornets had to constantly adjust and make up for the fact that Monk was on the floor defensively in that fourth quarter, and Monk and Bacon both displaying some rookie mistakes on defense. It just goes to show you what they're missing in both MKG and Batum, who in the fourth quarter of games tends to ratchet up the defense when necessary and is smart enough to not bite on pump fakes and things that get teams easy buckets. Missing both Batum and MKG on the wings.
And he just gives you length. I mean, both of those guys give you so much more length than even Bacon does. And I wanted to talk real quick about Bacon, Doug, because his minutes were significantly reduced, or at least when you compare him to Michael Carter-Williams, who got about 20 minutes last night. Bacon was only in there for about 18. So not a huge difference. Didn't score any points last night. Had a couple of egregious mistakes that I know Steve Clifford took particular issue with.
Oh, it sent him into a rage, and the cameras were on. It was. I mean, I've rarely seen Steve Clifford live game situation rip into a player like that.
Oh my God, he looked like I had my my 4-year-old was up with me. Parenting note for everyone: 10 o'clock. It's too late for them to be up, but he was doing a running commentary during the last 2 minutes, and I almost lost my mind. So I was going through what Steve Clifford was going through, trying to talk to Dwayne Bacon, but I thought Carter Williams played pretty well, Doug. Actually, he got a couple of deflections on defense. I thought he was a bit of a calming force running the offense with that second unit. I mean, you saw maybe a snapshot of things to come, what it can be. Everything wasn't perfect, but what do you think about him maybe eating into some of Bacon's minutes, that trade-off there?
No, I think it's very much a possibility because I think Bacon is trying very hard on defense, but it's something that he's learning. It's something that wasn't a focus for him in college, and they're definitely going to need length and defensive awareness, and that advantage goes to not only Carter Williams but several other players. In terms of wing, once they get this wing depth back.
Well, and I thought he distributed pretty well too. I mean, from what I saw, he made a couple drives. Had a
3 assists, 3 steals. I mean, Carter Williams, 20 minutes in this one, did not, and played in the fourth quarter, didn't look very tired. So, I mean, I think they're going to get Michael Carter Williams into this lineup as soon as possible and give him minutes. We got a question here from the chat. Why didn't we see Cody Zeller on Porzingis late in the game instead of going with Dwight Howard and then Marvin Williams on the final play? I have a theory. I mean,
I think he was shell-shocked from McQuinn. I don't know.
No. I think it's because Cody Zeller, not a great post-up defender, and I think with the Knicks having the lead, they're late. I think if you put Cody on them, they're just gonna post Porzingis up and try to shoot over Zeller or back him down, get physical with him, and get down low. That's the one thing you can say for Dwight Howard. He was active on Porzingis out on the wings, and then inside he was being physical. So I think that's why you go with Howard, and then I think they went with Marvin on that final possession because they wanted to get Marvin on Porzingis the entire game, but once the Knicks decided to bring Cantor out, then you had to put Howard on Porzingis and let Marvin go out and guard Lance Thomas. So, I mean, credit to Hornacek, by the way. Credit to the Knicks for A, making the plays that they needed to make down the stretch, and B, Hornacek for deciding to go small in the fourth, completely changed things up down 11, and it worked. I mean, the coaching victory goes to Hornacek in this one for making the adjustments necessary to win that basketball game. Not all bad for Malik Monk. He did have this play here. He bent this pass in transition.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh! Around Kyle O'Quinn to Marvin Williams, and Marvin Williams athletic as ever, just playing really well right now, hitting his outside shots. He's doing well as well. But I mean, this pass I said it's showing glimpses of what could make Malik Monk a special player and get him out of the sort of Lou Williams, Jamal Crawford comparisons that you're hearing a lot of these days. If Malik Monk is going to be, a star player, it's going to be because of something like that. Because I think it's going to be a while before the defense comes through.
And a kind of a point with Monk, and just kind of most rookies, we get excited when they have games like this and whatnot, and you see the potential that he has. But for most rookies that are playing the amount of minutes that Monk is, or ones that play even more, they're not playing net positive basketball. I mean, Tatum, I think, is the exception right now because Tatum's playing very well, and there's a couple others that are playing solid as well. But even on nights when they have good games, and Monk, if you just looked at the box score, you say, "Wow, he had a nice night." It doesn't necessarily translate into wins yet, and that's just what happens with a lot of rookies entering the NBA, learning to play, learning to understand what constitutes winning basketball versus basketball that looks nice or maybe looks good in the stats but doesn't necessarily translate. That play right there is fantastic. I'm not trying to call it that play, but what we're noticing, and this is kind of the other side of playing a rookie like this, is we're going to have to go through some growing pains with them. And I know that, and that's not ideal when the team itself is trying to be in the heat, not just make the playoffs, but be a little bit more than just a team that makes it. So it's why we need guys like MKG and Batum back and healthy, because otherwise, this is going to get exploited a little bit more.
Yeah, and Double M15 says, we are all counting down the return of Batum, but will it be too late to get everyone working together again? No. I mean, we're still really early in the season. This is not a great start. If you play the season in groups of 10, this is not a great start to that second 10 games. But they're just going to have to be in survival mode through. We're not sure about Nick Batum's status. He was targeting November 15th for a return. That's what he told Steph Reddy. But I don't know if he'll be ready by then or if the team will be ready to unleash him. I'll tell you this: Steve Clifford seems confident that Nick Batum, when he is ready to return, will gel quickly and make the team better immediately, as opposed to somebody that you have to kind of work in and figure out, like they're doing with Michael Carter-Williams right now.
Yeah, this is a bad start, but we were 8-3 at the start of last season, I think, through 11 games. If I'm remembering that correctly, we had a nice record at this point last year.
Yeah.
And I think we were 21-15 or something
long
like that
season.
At one point. Yeah, so long season. Things can turn around.
And I think if you're going to be lacking right now, given the personnel that you're missing, I mean, I'm a little encouraged by their ability to generate points in most of these games. I mean, I thought that was going to be something they would really struggle with, especially with Batum being on the sideline, not being able to get other people involved. And you've had Lamb step up and score. You're starting to get nice from Malik Monk. I mean, you have to feel confident that Clifford especially can get things righted a little bit on defense. When you get MKG back, that's obviously going to help a lot. But I think if you were struggling in one area, you're happy in some facet to see the offense, being good enough to win some of these games.
All right, let's move on to some other news. Dwight Howard went all the way back to the Attitude Era and caught a $25,000 fine from the league. I don't know if you guys have caught this yet. I'll put the video up for the YouTube watchers. This was in the game against Minnesota. Dwight was interacting with a fan before an inbounds and gave them the old D-Generation X gesture that late 90s pro wrestling fans will definitely remember. David, any thoughts?
Who was looking out for this?
I don't know. Kiki Vandeweghe, Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations for the NBA, gave them the...
Dwight, if you've watched Dwight at any of these games, he is all about fan interaction, and he is.
Look, he's just.
Oh, I mean, that guy has a story now. That fan has a story to tell his friends and to show a clip and just send that around.
I wonder, is there some kind of book for all of these gestures that the NBA office has, like an annotated manual with shadow figures displaying these maneuvers?
Did Hornets gifts Was he the narc there? Like, did that clip like make its way to Kiki Vandalay? And
no, I don't think so. I think, I mean, maybe. You have, look, that guy. Look, we love Captain Kurt. He's got an eagle eye.
Oh, I know.
But I know. Who knows? Well, the thing is, he tried to do it really subtly. Like it wasn't like
it wasn't coming from above the head. It was like just a little wrist
just
action.
a little.
Right.
Also, can you imagine the call to Kiki Vandaway about this thing? Like, yes, sir. Yes, he crossed his arms in an X in the vicinity of his stuff. Yeah, his stuff. No, not the magic mascot. His genitals, sir. It was an X. It's from pro not The Rock. No, it's from wrestling though. This sent me down a 90s wrestling internet rabbit hole. I had to go refresh myself on Degeneration X. This is from their Wikipedia page. Are you ready for this? The group's gimmick was best known as a gang of rebels who broke the rules, acted and spoke as they pleased, and wrestled whoever they wanted, no matter how provocative and insulting. Now, think about that, okay? Gang of rebels broke the rules, acted and spoke as they pleased, and these were the bad guys. Like in politics now, that's a winning strategy. These were the people that got booed.
Yeah. I guess except for last night, if you were following. Doesn't seem like that worked last night, but that's my political
Speaking of booing, Dwight Howard caught some boos to open up that game. Where did that come from? I mean, not that that's like unheard of, but I didn't know he had a lot of mortal enemies in New York. Am I misremembering something, or did he
maybe we're just blocking out 9 years or 10 years of Dwight Howard, pissing everybody off around the league. I don't know. He's been great so far, so we can't complain about like his,
Hey, 21-9 last night was dominant at times, Doug. And gives them an option they just haven't had, ability to throw that lob up and convert. I mean, that is one of the highlights of the start of the season, I think, how well he's played.
Well, and they're finally starting to get into a groove with that. That took some time, but you've seen Jeremy Lamb and Kemba Walker find that timing with Dwight Howard, and Dwight enjoys getting that look over the top for the lob or in transition. What he's not enjoying right now is not getting the ball in the post. I mean, you can see him vehemently demanding the ball in the post, and sometimes whether it's Frank Kaminsky or Kemba Walker or Jeremy Lamb who have the post entry opportunity, passing it up, and I think that frustrated him in Minnesota and caused him to be a little lax on defense, and I think that's a storyline you have to pay attention to going forward, because these post up opportunities have just been turnover city.
Yeah.
And teams are, the thing is, like, teams are doubling Dwight Howard in the post, okay? But it's not because he's effective in the post. It's because that teams have watched the tape, and they know that if they send a guard down, if they dig down, that he's not going to pass out quickly, and that they have a chance at a steal and a turnover. I mean, he hasn't done anything in the post to demand a double team. So it's definitely a storyline to watch going forward.
He doesn't secure the ball as well as Al Jefferson did in the post. I mean, it almost was like which is crazy because Al just would just like float the ball up with one hand, just kind of like, you feel like you could easily snatch it away. But just to make the comparisons to see the last legitimate post player that they've had. I mean, teams constantly don't have to double team, and he rarely turned it over in the post. So it's interesting. I don't know if it's just where he's catching it or he's posting it up. He is taking a long time with it. But yeah, that needs to improve a little bit if he wants to get more of those.
All right, final question here from the live chat, youtube.com/Locked On Hornets. If you want to watch us live and chat with us, Jack saying, would it be fair to say that MKG is our most valuable player after Kemba Walker, given how much the defense drops off when he sits? David, I know you have some thoughts on this.
Well, 4-1 with him, only 1-5 without MKG this season. That's a bit misleading because he only played like 7 minutes against the Bucks his last time out, but that was a win. Most valuable player. I mean, certainly to what this team wants to do. I mean, certainly to how much Clifford values him. It's tough in this era of 3-point shooting and scoring to say that he's the second most valuable player. But when you see the lack of toughness on defense, these last couple of games without him, and just throughout his career, when he's played, they're better.
I'll say this. MKG would have been playing in that early fourth quarter period when Treveon Graham allowed Doug McDermott to hit 3 straight threes. Or 2 straight threes, and then Lamb gave up the third one.
Do you think he's going to get some run also with the second unit? When they get through a stretch like that, when like a Quinn is beating them up on the boards and they have a tough time showing any toughness, I mean, can you see him getting inserted in there? Because he certainly has no
Well, he'd be playing with the second unit at the beginning of the fourth quarter to set the tone defensively, and ideally you'd like to have him and Dwight Howard on the floor at the same time to open up the fourth quarter, because that's going to allow MKG to be more aggressive on the wing, just the same as they would open up the first quarter, and give the Hornets an opportunity to hold on to a lead.
Yeah.
And then whether you give Howard a little bit of a blow in the middle of the fourth quarter and then bring him back at the end, however that shakes out, you know, having MKG and Dwight Howard at the beginning of a fourth quarter would have held that lead against. I'm guaranteeing it. It would have held that lead against the Knicks. I mean, that's just reality. Treveon Graham was not good enough defensively on Doug McDermott.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Treveon had a big time 3-point. He fouled McDermott on a 3, which was you just can't do that. And he's going to learn from that. I think he's a smart enough defender, but you're right, Doug. He's getting in way too much foul trouble early on in these games. Mm-hmm. You cannot do that in today's game. They're going to call anytime that shooter's in the air and you are in the once that goes up, you almost have to back away.
What I'm most upset about, David and Nick, is that while the Knicks were making their fourth quarter run, I was busy cutting sound from the Cheers theme song to play because I was so hyped up. Sometimes you wanna go where that doesn't mean anything. It's not as okay, maybe it's still pretty good. Dun, dun, and they're always glad you came.
That'll do it for us today here, folks.
All right, that's all the time we have here on Locked On Hornets. Thanks so much for listening and watching us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Hornets. Subscribe to us on iTunes. And while you're there, give us a 5-star review. Help hardcore Hornets fans like yourself find this podcast. Thanks so much to our sponsor, Draft.com. Sign up, use our promo code LO Hornets, and follow us on the Draft app, LOH Doug, so that you can play with Nick and I on the Draft app. Shoot us your Hornets questions and thoughts to buzz at LockedOnHornets.com. For David and Nick, I'm Doug saying, go Hornets, go America, let's swarm Charlotte.